Here's a look at the Oresund edition of Building Bridges with WTPN from July 16, 2012, with special guest, Dr. Ingram.
I was in a big bank here in England, and we were chit-chatting off the record, and the bank complex said, well, we bought into those mortgage documents, those mortgage options. We bought into that idea. It was presented to us from the United States. So that's where your digging, Mr. Davis, is so important.
Into the junk bonds. They were buying bonds that weren't any good. They
admitted it, and they said, well, we were the first one to just go ahead and write those billions off. And so we have you've been doing some digging as to the culprits that presented these junk bonds internationally, got banks on board. I mean, these must be some super extreme criminal entities out for their own gain. What has your digging uncovered as to who presented this to the world and who's behind all of this, besides Ben Bernanke, of course?
Yeah, we can't leave old Ben out of there. Actually, there's times I feel sorry for the man, but there's other times when you can look in his eyes, you can see he's just a cold, heartless liar. I mean, I hate to say that, but he is. Yeah. But, as hard as it is to believe, a lot of people think that the debt in this country is owned by China. And I haven't checked into it for a while, but it has been a couple of months. But the last time I looked, China only owned about maybe 15% of our debt. The biggest part of the debt in this country is insurance companies and people like Goldman Sachs, Warner Brothers, Turner. There's a lot of these companies that have bought stock and that, on the stock market with these banks. And a lot of the money that is borrowed for the different countries doesn't necessarily come out of the Federal Reserve, because when they're talking about the national debt, a lot of people see, okay, well, we've got an $18 trillion debt this year. Okay, what they're not looking at is this year. What about last year, the year before, the year before? We're not paying off $18 trillion worth of debt a year. And I don't know how many people I've argued with. They say, oh, well, our national debt's only $18 trillion. And if you do some digging, you can find multiple sources that will tell you that the national debt right now is over $200 trillion.
Yes,
that is crazy. And I know a lot of people are going to hear this and they're going to go, oh, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But I'm telling you, if you do the research and you dig deep enough, you will see that along with the national debt, we also have, our output per capita is so low right now that there's no way we could ever come out of that debt.
That's right.
That's where the banks want you. That's what the World Bank system and the Federal Reserve was all about. If you have evidence and you have enough people that are wanting this investigated, you can put this in front of a grand jury. You can take it to your DA and have your DA put it to the grand jury. And if your DA won't give it to the grand jury, put him on there too. Put him up on charges for under Title 18, Section 241 for violating your civil rights to redress. Take that straight to wherever the grand jury is meeting. You can walk right in and hand that right to the grand jury and say, here, I need this looked at. We want this looked at. I have all these people's signatures.
Because if you think about the RNC, as Mr. Gilbert calls them, a crime syndicate, which they are, and now they're running around because they're being brought to task by Gilbert and Marlowe through the delegates, and so they're dancing around. They're on the defensive finally. So one has to look at this as little brush fires of war against the people who are warring against the people.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. There's so much misinformation put out nowadays that people think they have no recourse, and we do still have that in the U.S. There's a lot of countries that don't have this. The U.K. there are means to redress grievances, but not like in the U.S. Yeah. And that's one of the problems we have, I think, in the U.S. is that the government is fighting so hard to take that right away from people. I mean, you look at the president. Washington is trying to pass a bill now where if something happens that is illegal, the news cannot report on it. Okay, if that is not communist, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So, but this isn't just here. This is all over. I mean, no country in today's world, with the economy the way it is, wants themselves to look bad. Okay, they don't want to lose any more support than they have because they know people around the world are upset. They know they're pissed off. They know that they've had enough. And they're holding on by their fingernails and their toenails right now just trying to keep people under control and trying to keep people from learning all that they can, and people are learning anyway. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we didn't have the internet. You couldn't talk to people like we're doing right now. You couldn't look at other countries, and like I'm looking at right now, the recent data for Spanish banks, $365 billion borrowed from June from the European Central Bank.
So what I'm saying is this whole Islamophobia thing is a complete fabrication. It's to prevent people from interchanging from the two cultures, and those two cultures are the people of Christianity, the people of Christ, the people of Muhammad. They have so much in common. Look at the Holy Book, how the Quran talks about Mary and only Mary as the finest of all women. How Jesus is called Messiah, which means Messiah. How he's mentioned by name more often than Muhammad.
Amazing. But people don't read though. They go by what they hear and what the news tells them. And you have all these people that are so they're so conditioned to watching TV, and they don't realize that the very people that own most of the mainstream TV, even commercials, are aimed at controlling them and their actions and their beliefs because they want them to believe a certain way. When you have somebody, that has billions of dollars and they own a TV studio, they're not going to tell you not to go buy their product because it's bad for you. They're not going to go tell you to go get fresh fruits or fresh milk, because if they do that, they're cutting their own profits.
Yeah.
So for people to think that anything that comes off of media is going to be 100% honest and truthful, it's a conditioning. It's ignorance. It's not stupidity. It's ignorance, because they just don't know any better. It's come down through so many years of conditioning and social conditioning, that people don't know any better. And it's people like us. There are millions of us that have to spread the message, that have to spread the word, of faith and unity and peace and love, and that the ones that are keeping this from happening are the ones that are afraid of that happening.
Oh yeah. Let's make it really simple. Backing up your words. Everything that the Christ Jesus said, the Prophet Muhammad said too.
Agree. Totally agree on that. Yes. And that should be the lesson for today.
I was in Spain also just a couple of weeks ago, and you see real estate signs everywhere. So you know that the bubble has burst. The consequences have not completely undermined Spain quite yet. But you're absolutely right. You cannot keep stealing money from the general public. I mean, this is the bailout century, isn't it? The first 12, 15 years of 2012 are going to go down in history as showing the power of the people, who control the earth, that they can just go in to the American people's future coffers, their future tax money, their future earnings. If they fail with their economic model, which they have in Spain and in Greece, then they just go into the common people's money, steal it, and stuff it back in the banks, and to keep propping these countries up. I mean, nobody's talking about this. This is grand theft on the most monstrous scale.